If life is a game, then before you were born, you picked a starting location. This is part of a series that I'm doing where we're looking at how life is more like a video game that you're playing with quests, with other characters, with challenges, all to make you a better, brighter person. And today we are going to be talking about your starting location, where you began this round of the game and what it all means. So as we go through the different pieces that make up your starting location, I want you to think about why you may have chosen where you were born and why you were born in this era. Okay, so as a quick little refresh, life is more like a video game simulation. We planned out this experience that we're having with our lovely, fantastic guides in order to learn lessons and to accomplish a specific purpose. And we set up our lives, we set up the relationships, our family dynamics, our physical body, all to help support the big quest that we are undergoing in this life. So you began that quest plopped in a spatial location on your video game topography. And this is where you began the game from. So your starting location was selected to either provide you challenges to push against that would cause you to grow and shift in a variety of ways through opposition, or through the ways it was supporting you and providing you skills and resources. So let's talk about the time period, the time era. When you are born really sets up the gameplay in a major way, because you and I know if you were born today versus in ancient Sumeria versus in cave times, you are going to be shaped to be a different type of a person. So let's say, for example, your lesson is learning about control, right? That you're learning about how not to be controlling. If you were born in an era of really rigid social structures and gender norms, so perhaps you were born in medieval China and there were very limited amounts of opportunities that you had available to you because of the culture and who you were in that culture, right? Depending on your social status, your gender, your economic status, etc. You are going to experience being controlled by that society. So in that case, by selecting that era, you're learning about control through being controlled. You're selecting that environment, that time environment, everything that goes with it, so that you can explore what control looks like when it is highly structured. So as you look through different time periods in history, you can imagine if you were born in Egypt, maybe you had the opportunity to learn about different social classes or the way religion was viewed and integrated into life. Perhaps there were different paths you could explore because of that time period. But let's talk about right now, because I'm living right now and you're living right now. So why did we pick this time period? So this is really going to tie back to what your quest is. You're going to want to watch that video next to help really kind of understand why this time period is so powerful for you. But think about it. This is a time period where we can connect with people all around the world, right? Here we are, right, with YouTube, that there's just dissemination of ideas. There's knowledge and information available to all of us that has never been available at any time in the history. So is that part of your life story and opportunity? There's also the opportunity to travel and go to a lot of different lands and cultures. Right now, we just have a much bigger, broader menu than was ever available to us before, particularly depending on what country you're in, of course. But then this is also a time when things are really a bit chaotic, right? We have all of these social structures, and this is a time when we can call out people that are misusing power. In the past, power has always been misused, but we were beholden to it. We didn't have a voice often. We had to be subject of whatever was going on. We're experiencing that now, depending on the country that you're in, right? And depending on whatever your political upheaval is in the moment. But this is a time period where we can take our cameras and show what's going on. So this is a way for us to engage with power, engage with dysfunction in ways that we never have before. This is also a time where we have less and less community and connection, less of a sense of a belonging to a larger group, and become a lot more individuated, a lot more in our worlds. This causes its own drama and chaos when we're so focused internally and having to deal with all of our muck, but it also causes us to go inward to really look and understand ourselves. This is a lot more an era of me versus us, which allows us to grow in different ways. Also, and I think this is pertinent to you and to me, this is an era where we can explore spiritual knowledge and truths freely and communicate and meet other people and learn from people all around the world and expand our spiritual knowledge. In other time periods, me doing this would have gotten me burned at the stake or excommunicated or sent out of the tribe or whatever it may have been if I was exploring an idea of reincarnation, etc. That wasn't something that was allowed by the structure that be. This is a revolutionary time when it comes to soul development. This is why so many people are choosing to incarnate right now in the planet, because the opportunities that exist here for our personal and soul evolution in the midst of all of this chaos and drama and challenge, that itself is fertile soil for our soul evolution. This is a time that a lot of souls are wanting to be born now. I know, you probably were like, I don't think I wanted to choose this, but personally, I like the internet. So I'm happy I chose right now. I think it's interesting that I chose a time period where I was able to see what life was like prior to the internet and what community and lifestyle looked like, and then lived post-internet as well. I think that must have been part of my sole reason for choosing this time period, and that I really wanted to be able to live in a time period where I could express my voice, I could explore different belief systems safely, I could reach out to a lot of people without needing official approval. Right? And I'm able to do this as a woman, which isn't something that would have been allowed to me. So I'm able to express and explore what it is to be a woman and what power looks like as a woman in this time period, which wasn't available to me or wouldn't have been available to me in previous lives. So this spiritual evolution is something that I wanted to be a part of. I am curious for you. Why do you think you chose this moment in time? What collective revolution or challenges that are happening right now are you taking advantage of? Are you learning from? Are you growing from? Are you being pushed by? Is it spirituality? Is it politics? Is it power structure? Is it, the individual versus the group identity? Is it technology? What is it about now that's providing fertile soil for your soul evolution? Okay, so we've selected the time period that you're going to start this round of the game in. Check. All right, let's talk about where on the map we're going to place you. Let's talk about the country you were born into. Now, it's also interesting. You can think about this in a few ways. If you were born in one country and ended up in another country, that is also intentional and of note, that you wanted to get a bit of a hodgepodge experience from different cultural country experiences. Every country, as I think you can recognize, has its own personality and soul age. So you being born into the country you were provided opportunities. Clearly, I was born into the United States. This makes a lot of sense. One of the things that I'm personally working on is power. And power is one of the soul lessons that the United States is working on. This is also a very young country. It's very, brash, and you can do anything that you want to. Anything is possible. You can start your own business. You can chase after dreams. You can go down a variety of different paths that strike your fancy, right? This is the land, the so-called land of opportunity. So for me, I know that was one of the reasons why I was born in the United States, even though my heart calls out for Europe. But I know that it provided me an opportunity just to be in this culture where this is a very quick to action culture. This is a culture where you're encouraged to chase after ideas and to believe that anything is possible. That helped shape my experience. But let's think about other countries, right? You're not all in the United States. I know quite a few of you are, but I know that you're all over the planet. So I want to talk about not only the US, but what might be, just as some examples, other countries and their personality and how that might be impacting your soul game. So we've got Germany, right? It's a very methodical, structured, organized, logical sort of environment. But it is also a country, right, that if we go back 80 years, went through some pretty atrocious time period. So if you were born in Germany now, in this era where this is a country that's learning how to accept horrible things that have happened in the past, and how do you grow and still accept and move forward and see the goodness within your culture and your people, which you know is true, right? This, I think, is a fascinating opportunity at the soul level, because on the soul level, this also gives you the opportunity, how do you accept yourself and other things that your soul may have done in previous lives, which was not so shiny, because we do not so shiny things. Then let's take a look over at Japan. Now here's a culture that is very structured, very formal. Perfection is really important and how things look. And the collective is much more important than the individual. How is that impacting people that are born in Japan now? And then you have this additional layer, right, in this country where the population is decreasing substantially. You don't have as many children as you have older people. Depending on what your particular quest is, that experience might be really impacting you in your soul evolution. You might be provided with a variety of opportunities that you would not have been in most other cultures, right? This is a very unique experience in Japan where there are more older folks than there are younger folks. What does that mean? Now let's keep traveling around the world and go over to Brazil. Here's this very vibrant, exuberant country. It's expressive, it's joyful, it's creative, and yet there's also this deep history of inequality. There's this connection to spirituality there, which is a very unique approach to spirituality compared to other countries. It's such a blend of different cultural histories. What impact does this have on somebody who was born in Brazil? India is one that I think is particularly interesting too, right? Here's where reincarnation began, right? In my opinion, this is where the spiritual knowledge took root the earliest. They've known about auras and reincarnation and chakras and all of those things, and karma, much longer than the West has. This is deeply ingrained. This is just a grounded reality, a day-to-day life reality. And yet at the same time, this is a culture that is grappling with a history of a very structured, caste-like system. You have the history of colonialism and what that has done to the country. You've got current political dynamics. All of these weave in such a unique structure and experience. And it's, so many people are choosing to be born in this country for a reason. This is the most populated country on Earth. Why are all these folks seeing that India is providing them with the best spiritual opportunity possible? Then you've got the UK, right? That's also one. When we talk about colonialism, people in the UK now are Maybe they're grappling with the history of colonialism and what that means to be somebody that used to be very powerful and now is having to be pointed out about how they really messed around with the world. This is also a culture that expressing emotion and being authentic isn't very encouraged, that you're having to do a lot of self-control. And there's all these class structures. So again, if you're working on a lesson around control, the UK might be a place that you chose for that reason. And it's interesting, right? Because you think about the UK's history was very much about being the empire that the sun never sets on. They were everywhere in the world. They were connected to all of these different countries and still are, right? They're still the Commonwealth. And yet you layer on that now the whole concept of Brexit, about withdrawing and being all about England. That's an interesting dynamic, right? What cultural setting does that create for the soul and their soul opportunities? Canada, I think, is also an interesting one right now. Canada is also a young country, a sibling to the United States, right? Our dear neighbor. They've often been defined by who they are not. They're not British. They are not American. They're very polite. They're very kind-hearted, cultural people. And yet now also with all of the drama going on with the United States and how we are treating our allies, this is providing also a unique opportunity for Canada to assert its own identity and say what it stands for and what it stands against. I think it's also very fascinating. So in all of this, I've been talking about individual countries, and if I haven't talked about your country, I'm sorry. It would be an entire 5-hour video to go through every country on the planet, though that might be fun. But I'm curious, if I didn't talk about your country, what about your country do you think is unique and provides spiritual and soul level opportunities for you and your fellow country people? But let's talk about culture, because we've talked about the country, and every country has its own culture, and there are subcultures within countries, of course, and these cultures provide particular opportunities. For example, I already talked about the United States. We're a very individualistic country. And you have Japan, which is a very collectivist country. Is your soul quest to be more internally facing and learning about you? Or is your quest about relationships and understanding how you are interconnected and belong to a larger group than yourself? Do you live in a culture where you have a freedom of expression, a freedom of religion, a lot of spiritual opportunities? Or are you in something where you're more prescribed and you have to operate within an established belief structure? Is that belief structure oppressive to you? Or is it supportive to you? Does it give you a framework in which for you to operate your life within and to feel a little bit more safe? Are you in a culture that has strong ancestral ties versus one that looks towards the future? Maybe a little bit of both. Particularly when you layer on that time perspective, right? Are you in a culture that is in the middle of a lot of conflict? That there might be a lot of conflict within different groups in your country or neighboring countries. What is it to be in a culture where there's conflict as part of your day-to-day life experience? Culture provides you a value system to work within that can support you and help you express different aspects of yourself, or it can provide you something to push against, something that constrains you and that makes you more aware of who you are because of the conflict. So think about your culture. You live and swim in it, right? It's the air you breathe. Sometimes it can be hard to see because it's just your natural reality. But stop and think a minute. The culture you're in, how is it shaping you? How is it shaping your life? And how is it shaping the lessons that you're learning and the purpose that you're here to accomplish? So another reason that you chose the country that you did is because countries or cultures, depending on which level you want to slice it at, are also working on soul lessons. So you are choosing to also participate in sort of an over soul lesson, a group soul lesson, if you will. Now that's going to be different to each country. I'm not going to speak through all of those because I don't have intimate knowledge about what each individual country is learning at a soul level. I think I would really need to be in that to understand that deeply, but I can at least speak a little bit to the United States to get you a flavor of what I'm talking about here. So, for example, we know that race is a huge issue, a huge, complicated, torturous historical issue here in the United States, right? Where we have suppressed the freedoms, I say we because, my skin tone was on that side of things, but where the suppression of people's freedoms started at the beginning of the foundation of this country. At the same time, this was a country that was all about freedom, individuality, and the right to the pursuit of happiness. So there is a soul lesson that we're working on learning about freedom and respecting and honoring the individual that plays out particularly in these racial and political dynamics. It's a lot more complicated than that to break down to just a soundbite, but you can imagine that if you are wanting to participate in a lesson where the collective soul is learning about freedom and individual respect, right, and honoring people of all different types, belief systems, etc., that the United States is a good place for you to incarnate into to participate in that larger lesson. So we each help move that story forward a little bit in our individual actions and how we participate in that larger collective story, whether we're participating it in a positive way or in a negative way or in a way where we're the ones impacted or the ones doing the impacting. We're playing a role in that larger dance as well. So when you selected your starting location, you also thought about how you might participate in that larger game, that larger soul story. Now that we've talked about your country, let's get a little bit more specific. Let's get into the physical location. So think about it. In the video game, where you start gives you a whole set of circumstances and a whole set of resources available to you. Are you in a mountainous terrain with rivers and trees? Are you in the middle of a desert? What is available to you as you open your eyes in this game and begin to collect the resources that are going to go on your little knapsack as you journey through your quest? Well, where you physically began in the world also provided you with resources. Maybe you were born in a place that had really wonderful education, and those were the resources available to you. Maybe you were born in a place that felt very safe, and so that gave you a good starting place, that you were starting from a place of safety and therefore could feel a little bit more braver in taking chances. Economically, perhaps you were born into a wealthy country, and so that also provided you a lot more opportunities for economic growth and jobs, etc., that allowed you to propel forward in your chosen quest. Perhaps you were born in a rural area, and this gave you a chance to feel much more connected to nature or animals, or feeling a sense of community and connection to the others that are with you. Perhaps you were born in an urban environment, which gave you a lot more access to a variety of different types of people and thoughts and art and different experiences in that way. All these different things became resources in your knapsack. But they also provided their own challenges as well. What if you were born in the middle of a war-torn country? And that ended up pushing on you to develop the skills that you needed to survive there. You developed the skill of resilience, of perseverance. Just like if your player started in the middle of a desert, you would need to develop the skill of learning how to find water and find shade. Your physical location presented both challenges and opportunities that sculpted you and set you up for this gameplay. So, for example, for me, right, we've already talked about here I am in the United States with a whole bunch of other people. Maybe you're one of them. But I specifically was born in Oregon on the West Coast. So that set me up in a hyper-individual sort of environment where this is a very progressive place, but it's also a place that really embraces being weird, right? Keep Portland weird is a thing here in Portland. It's really about being unique, chasing your own brand of interest, of individuality, of being self-expressive. This is a very creative space. So all about self-expression in how you want to be unique. This, for me, created the resources that I needed to be somebody who spoke out about things that other people would feel like they're kind of weird. So for me, it's very comfortable to be weird because that was the resources, the environment that I was provided with. There's also energetics at play. I know, for example, Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now, he was pulled to the west coast of North America, specifically Vancouver in British Columbia, to write The Power of Now. It was those energetics, the energetics of this west coast, that allowed this new spiritual energy to come through. When you look at the west coast, there's a lot more focus on spirituality and more esoteric thought. But when it came time for him to edit the manuscript, he was pulled to go back into the United Kingdom, a place of a lot more structure, a lot more organization, a lot more critical picking apart of ideas. So where we find ourselves in the world also presents its own energy that impacts how we show up. It's got its own vibe. So where are you? What is the vibe that you are existing in? Are you living someplace where things are cutting edge, new ideas? Are you someplace where there's a lot of judgment and anger and constriction and control? Are you in some place where survival is at play, where we're trying to figure out how to live? Are there battles happening in the regions that you're in? All of this is setting the scene for your game, for your quest. What is your setting? And if where you were born and where you live now is shaping you to be a particular person, what are those forces? How are they shaping you? How are they creating the opportunities for you to live this life and to accomplish the mission that you are here to accomplish? So that is your starting location, the land that you find yourself in so that you can accomplish what you are here to do. What terrain are you charging through next? Now it is time to choose your own adventure. If this is your first time here, you may want to go back to the very first episode where it all began and find out how this whole game is set up. Or if you're ready to go further on your quest, check out this video all about your character. Whatever path you take, I will see you there. Bye.